Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The former WBO champion Joseph Parker has been challenged by the Cuban prospect Frank Sanchez Faure. So Frank Sanchez Faure, currently 15-0, just recently fought Joey DeWeco. He is a rising talent in the division. Some people do have big raps on how far he might be able to go. So he's offered to step in for Junior Faure to face Parker. So I'll come to his comments and then we'll get to some thoughts. But as well as that, I just wanted to briefly at the end of the video discuss the sort of rising buzz that there is for Frank Sanchez Faure, because until recently there hadn't been a lot of talk about him, but the past 6 or 12 months starting to bubble up with a bit more buzz and hype. But starting with some of his comments regarding stepping in for Junior Faure. So Faure and Parker, there's been a bit of back and forth in the media between their managers. Also, the fighters themselves had made statements. Junior Faure wants 1/3 of whatever the purse there is for a fight for Joseph Parker. So if Parker is to get $2 million, which is his reported salary for his next fight, he's on a 3-fight DAZN deal reported as $6 million. That's New Zealand dollars, by the way. Faure would like 1/3, so that would be a $3 million pot. He wants $1 million effectively. His manager has backed that up a number of times in the media, saying that is fair. So obviously Parker's side, the Parker camp, is saying, well, hang on, you haven't really got much on the record, you're asking for a lot, this fight probably won't happen. And David Higgins, Parker's advisor and manager, has said, look, they'll probably move on to other options if the demands are not more realistic, as he put it. So Frank Sanchez has seen an opportunity and said to BoxingScene.com, I'm happy to step in for Junior Faure and fight Joe Parker. I won't price myself out because I know I will win. No disrespect to Parker, but I would win every round of the fight and he would not lay a glove on me. I want to prove I'm the best heavyweight in the world and I have targeted the WBO championship. I am ready to fight anyone and prove I am the best. A win over Joe Parker would put me in line for a world title fight, and that's all that interests me. Frank Sanchez's statements to BoxingScene.com. A confidence indeed from the Cuban Flash, as he's known. He thinks he can win every round against Joseph Parker, the former WBO champion, who's had a couple of losses in recent years and 3 tune-ups following that. Hasn't been in a big fight for a while. And in terms of the recent opposition, Frank Sanchez is certainly a cut above the likes of Alexander Flores, Alex Leopai, and Shondell Winters. But there is a potential issue here for Frank Sanchez. He's in that sort of place in his career where he's calling out guys like this, and I applaud him for doing so, and the intent with which he's talking, that he wants to prove he's the best. He's willing to take smaller money than Junior Faure because he wants to fight a contender and prove his worth in the heavyweight division, contend for a title. But he's in that place where he's between prospect and sort of fringe level at the moment. And when you look at the record, is there so much that is there that you kind of go, this is an obvious fight to make at this time? And it's not to say it's not going to be a good fight, and I'll come to that in a moment. But in terms of making the fight, at the moment, you would sort of say that his worth, as it were, his stock in the heavyweight division, maybe isn't quite where it needs to be to make the fight. He is in that place where he's fought the sort of requisite journeyman in the heavyweight division, but still not to take that next step where you can kind of go, he obviously has to fight a contender next. He obviously can be in the big fights and that fans would want to see that fight. I would like to see that fight, but I think in terms of the progression of his career, going from someone like Joey DeWeco to Joseph Parker, it feels like there is a fight in between that he would need to have. You know, someone like a Gerald Washington or something of that ilk, someone who's in the top 30 or top 40, you know, whereas Joey DeWeco is a very rugged and durable journeyman, but he's not really top 50 level. He is getting beaten by most guys in the heavyweight division, but he's certainly a stern test for you to prove your worth and your mettle. So I do kind of think that the call out, even though I like what I'm hearing from Sanchez Faure, is kind of going to go nowhere. Plus, also, you have to ask, what is the actual promotional considerations for Frank Sanchez Faure right now? He has been fighting on PBC. He is with the manager, Mike Burrell, who also manages Charles Martin, a PBC fighter. Could they bridge that gap and allow Frank Sanchez to fight on DAZN? So I don't know his promotional status. Is he locked in to fighting on PBC and such, Fox or Showtime, whatever? Don't know the ins and outs of his situation, but potentially a roadblock there as well. But in terms of the fight and those comments where he says, no disrespect to Parker, but I would win every round of the fight and he would not lay a glove on me. Big talk indeed. And for those who haven't followed Frank Sanchez or haven't seen much of him, he is a guy who is a very talented fighter. He has got fast hands, good technical skills. He is a Cuban after all. But to say that Parker wouldn't lay a glove on him, well, Joey DeWeco did manage to actually land a couple of shots on Sanchez, including a big right hand in either the 9th or the 10th round. It was late on in that fight. But for the most part, from what we've seen from Frank Sanchez, he's looked good. But I think it is a case he probably needs to show us more before sort of cutting the queue, as it were, to get a fight with someone like a Joseph Parker, who's, a top 10 fighter there or thereabouts, somewhere towards, considered by most, towards either the back end of the top 10 or just outside. Parker needs to have a few bigger fights to really sort of work his way higher up the ladder in terms of people considering him maybe top 5. He needs a couple of big wins to get there. So Sanchez, if he had a little bit more meat on the resume, a bit more profile, maybe it could work. But in terms of the fight itself, when I think about these two fighters, they are actually somewhat similar. With, they both like to move, they both have fast hands, and Parker and his right hand is probably comparable to Frank Sanchez Faure. It's really sort of hard to gauge these things, but I haven't seen anything to suggest that Frank Sanchez is a massive puncher. And as he comes up in the levels, as he did against Joey DeWeco, he's not going to be stopping everyone. As it is, he's got a record 15 fights, 11 knockouts. So, he's got some power, but not necessarily maybe that knockout pop at an elite level. And, hasn't been bundling out all these journeymen in early rounds, that sort of thing. But I do like the confidence from Sanchez Faure, and it brings me to that next sort of last point that I wanted to make regarding the Cuban prospect. He's been, in the past year or so, the amount of talk about him has been starting to rise. A lot of people, until more recently, didn't really know too much about him, hadn't seen him fight, and he's had a couple bigger sort of fights in the context of his career in recent times, like the likes of Jason Bergman. That's actually someone who Joseph Parker fought. That was in Samoa in, I think, 2014, 15, something like that. And Bergman actually did touch up Parker just a little bit, landed a couple of shots, and I think that went 8 rounds, whereas Sanchez took him out in 2. He also fought Victor Bisbal, another sort of fringe-level gatekeeper type guy, the relatively inexperienced Jack Mulawai. That was on short notice. Mulawai originally meant to face a Jagba, and then Joey DeWeco. So he's been rising his competition. And along with that has come more attention from the mainstream sort of boxing media. Sky has done a number of articles on him in the past year or so, and you have others that are paying him more attention, and fans more broadly are starting to take notice. And actually, just a week or so ago, Sky spoke to Sanchez Faure's manager, Mike Burrell, who said, just a guess, but I think Usyk ends up winning a vacated WBO heavyweight title within the next 12 months. Frank is in a good position to fight for the WBO championship in the event that occurs. I believe Frank Sanchez versus WBO number 6 Junior Faure or number 7 Michael Hunter would make sense. Once the boxing world gets back on track, we will try face one of those younger top 10 guys in order to solidify a world title opportunity. So Sanchez Faure at the moment in the WBO ranked number 10. That was of their latest update, which because of this current situation in boxing, he will stay at number 10 at least until the middle of June. But interesting there, talking about facing a Junior Faure, who was a prospective opponent for Joseph Parker. Faure at 6, Michael Hunter at 7, and Joseph Parker at number 2. And part of the reason he wants Parker is that WBO angle. But obviously, I like his chances against Junior Faure if they fought, but I think it's unlikely that that fight would get made unless it was ordered by the WBO. I don't think Junior Faure and his team are going that route. Seemingly, they'd like to get the Parker fight made, but only if the money is really good money, almost cash out sort of money. But Michael Hunter, same for the reason with Parker. Is there the sort of, one, the money for that fight, I guess, but two, promotional considerations. Michael Hunter, also a Matchroom/DAZN fighter. But maybe Sanchez Faure is able to operate on the margins and go to different broadcasters. I don't know. As I said, I don't know his circumstances in terms of PBC, if he's locked into anything. But Sanchez Faure is a guy that is sort of on the rise at the moment, starting to get a bit more attention. And I think a lot of people like what they see at the moment. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.